Handing it over to Communications Director Zack Gall, he will walk us through the structure of this organization and the collaborative support to the community.
Thank you, Daisy. Good evening to everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight, wherever you are. I'm Zack Gall, the Director of Communications with the EOS Network Foundation, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about how the ENF is currently structured as an organization within the EOS ecosystem, how we are taking a multi-pronged approach to scaling our efforts within the EOS community, and how you all have the opportunity to play a critical role in those efforts. EOS is a constantly evolving ecosystem, and its flexibility has always been one of its biggest strengths. This is made possible because of both its underlying technology and also because EOS is and always has been a DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization. Let me explain what I mean. The EOS token is the payment token for claiming pro rata access to the network's resources. When it is staked in the REX, it also serves as a pro rata claim on the profits generated by the network, as well as granting pro rata access to governance rights over the network. EOS, the network itself, is a decentralized operating system governed by a DAO for applications built on a distributed ledger. If you break down the different layers of governance on EOS, you could begin with the EOS token itself. There are 1 billion tokens in circulation, all owned by a decentralized group of tens of thousands of independent token holders. Each token holds governance rights to determine who secures the EOS network by voting for block producers, either directly or indirectly through mining pools. The block producers themselves are centralized entities that operate nodes, which run the software and underpin the security and operations of the network itself. The top 21 nodes are responsible for block production, but they're also delegated with the guardianship over the network. Any updates to the network or to its system contracts is done in a decentralized fashion, which requires a 15 out of 21 consensus amongst the BPs. The top 21 are essentially the custodians of the EOS DAO. And for 3 years, they held the highest level of leadership within the network. However, they've traditionally been uncoordinated. Enter the EOS Foundation. Under the previous model, EOS lacked a few critical elements that held it back from reaching its full potential. It lacked leadership. It lacked coordination. It lacked the ability to effectively allocate pooled resources to advance the network itself and its own vested interests. With the ENF, we now have all three, and we've proven over just the last 2 months that we are able to execute with the speed, precision, and efficiency that simply didn't exist before. The EOS Network Foundation is a result of an even higher level of consensus than what we had ever had previously within the network. The ENF is the end result of a decision made by the top 21 guardians who secure the EOS DAO to empower the EOS Foundation with a recurring annualized budget of 20 million EOS, equal to $100 million USD every year, from the network itself to lead EOS into a new era of prosperity and growth under its unified vision and stewardship of those assets. Those funds are being deployed in a coordinated and supervised fashion on behalf of EOS, within EOS, and for EOS. For the first time in the history of decentralized governance, a top-down leadership was elected by the network itself to essentially act as the CEO of that network. We are the consensus of the network. No other protocol in existence has anything like this, where a leadership was elected and funded by the network itself, and who could also, on the other hand, be fired by the network if it doesn't perform up to the network standards. We work for the EOS token holders. We're accountable to the EOS token holders, and we are fully committed to exceeding the EOS token holders' high expectations. For EOS to be successful, the ENF cannot take on every issue or attempt to solve every problem by ourselves. We are here to empower the network stakeholders, including yourselves, to join us in our efforts to allow us to scale horizontally and in parallel so that we could all work together to drive the network forward effectively and efficiently. Fortunately, we've spent years within the EOS ecosystem as leaders of the community within the community, and we understand many of the needs and have already identified much of the top talent that are able to assist us in these efforts. There are many amazing talents still within the EOS ecosystem who have essentially been on a 3-year job interview, and we will be leaning on them heavily in our efforts moving forward. We are providing these teams and individuals with the opportunity to show the wider blockchain ecosystem just how great they really are when incentives are aligned. The ENF made an initial investment of over $1 million to assemble sponsored working groups consisting of the upper echelons of leadership within the EOS ecosystem within their areas of expertise. Each of these working groups is being tasked with defining roadmaps to solve many of the biggest and most impactful challenges that EOS currently faces as we continue to deliver on our mission to enable developers, businesses, and individuals to build on EOS. We are doing this by improving on things like wallets, user onboarding, APIs, history solutions, documentation, education, subsidized auditing, and more. As Eve had mentioned earlier, each of these 4 working groups will be delivering blue papers over the next 8 to 12 weeks, which will serve as roadmaps for EOS's future. EOS has renewed hope and optimism, which has largely been absent over at least the last 2 years. For a long time, there was not much to look forward to, and the network stagnated. The ENF is bringing renewed hope and opportunities to the EOS network. EOS is rapidly becoming an ecosystem full of limitless opportunities. In our first 2 months, we've already allocated over $3.5 million in recognition grants to projects who have been building on EOS despite lacking network-wide support for a very long time. Many of these projects had low morale over the future of EOS, and they were lacking resources. EOS could not afford to lose any more talent while the ENF works to rebuild the faith in the network, so prioritizing these projects was of the utmost importance. Based on conversations I've had with the teams, they're very excited about the direction for EOS and the new opportunities that are being constantly created. They all understand that there are much brighter days ahead for EOS under the leadership of the ENF. We will not let them down. We've also funded Eden with nearly $2 million to experiment with fractal governance and decentralized identity. They've recently incentivized over 150 people to reach consensus in an election process to determine how those funds would be budgeted. The election resulted in an EOS customer support team being empowered, a grassroots marketing team with global representation, a decentralized social media platform, as well as funding for EOS onboarding, user onboarding, among other smaller efforts. And most recently, we've announced a grant matching pool of $500,000 for Pomelo. This capital will be distributed across all grant proposals made using a quadratic formula to allow the EOS token holders themselves to dictate how the public goods funding is to be allocated rather than the ENF ourselves. The ENF will continue to focus on high-level, high-impact initiatives while empowering the EOS community to also work independently towards our unified vision. Pomelo is a crowdfunding platform that uses quadratic voting, which was first introduced by Vitalik Buterin and has been adopted by a project called Gitcoin on Ethereum. It's proven to be the mathematically optimal way for funding public goods in a democratic community where the number of contributors matter more than the actual amount being contributed. Pomelo is the EOS equivalent of Gitcoin for funding public goods within the EOS ecosystem. Outside of Ethereum, there is nothing else like this being done anywhere. Not on Matic, not on BSC, not on Polkadot, not on Avalanche, not on Solana, not anywhere else, just EOS and Ethereum. I believe that it will be a powerful tool for pushing EOS forward by funding and empowering hundreds and eventually thousands of individuals to be incentivized to work within the EOS ecosystem. Pomelo will demonstrate a truly sustainable and decentralized model for building public goods for the open web that will lead EOS to mature into the best-in-class blockchain ecosystem that we've always expected it to be. With funding allocations from the ENF for both Eden and Pomelo, they allow anyone the opportunity to be incentivized to work within the EOS ecosystem to drive it forward, and for those individuals to be paid for their time and effort, as long as other EOS token holders agree that the work that they're doing is valuable. This includes marketing, open source code, community building, education, hosting events, hackathons, and other value adds for EOS. These mechanisms are what are allowing the EOS DAO to be run more like a business, with many different individuals, entities, and businesses all working together in parallel to fulfill the unified vision for EOS being laid out by the ENF. We are steadfast in our dedication and commitment to fulfill our mission to enable developers, businesses, and individuals to build on EOS. Funding proposals for Pomelo open up on November 7th, and I would like to personally invite all of you to check it out if you're interested in supporting the EOS ecosystem in an impactful way, as we lead the network into a new era of prosperity and growth. I mentioned earlier how EOS had previously lacked hope and optimism over the last 2 years. With all of the work the ENF is doing internally, along with its direct investments, sponsored working groups, Eden initiatives, and grant funding through Pomelo, there are countless things to look forward to and be hopeful about. This is the environment that I want to nurture within the EOS ecosystem. We want to create an environment where there is so much happening within the EOS ecosystem that it becomes impossible to even keep up with it all. We want to create an environment where there is always something to look forward to in the future that unites us all together as a community that we could all rally behind. If you'd like to join us to make this happen and keep up on everything discussed today, then I highly encourage you to join us on the EOS Community Discord channel. You could reach out directly. And I just want to thank all of you for joining today's event. And please follow us. Please join the movement as we enter a new era for EOS, as we show the world a comeback story of a lifetime.